All right, and we are back. So we are talking about the KEMSA scandal, and suddenly it has become extremely political. Francis, the other day, ODM calls for something they're calling special audit. The DP and his people up in arms saying, well, you know, you guys now don't want people to step aside. You don't want DCI and EACC, all these people to talk about corruption. And the other people are saying, well, you know, when we had Arora and Kimwarer, you guys said you didn't have confidence in DCI and EACC. So the same merry-go-round that we see with this fight against corruption, even with the politics of it. And as you said, I think the last time around, once politics gets in, then we even forget what we were talking about. Absolutely, and that's how the whole discussion gets lost. In fact, you even hear so serious allegations that even the committees of parliament that are investigating these matters have members who are also accused of benefiting from the same corruption they're supposed to be investigating. Therein is your first challenge, because it is not possible to send somebody who participated in the slaughtering of a stolen goat to be the chair or to be a member of a team that is now tasked with the responsibility of investigating where the goat went. That's what they say in Banana, my village. Yeah. It is not possible to, you know, to be a participant in such a process. That is one side of it. Number two, when politics come in, the whole discussion shifts. And it's not that because all these politicians are very interested in matters of accountability, are so interested in accountability, are so interested in matters of integrity, are so interested in a discussion where Kenyans will not lose any money. This is a perfect opportunity to have a fierce political exchange, because on one hand, the Deputy President is opposed to the so-called audit. On the other hand, ODM is pushing for this audit. And the Deputy President is reminding them that during the Aror and Kimwarer Dam and other scandals, you did not ask for an audit. At that time, he's saying, we were asking DCI to investigate this matter and give us evidence to nail the culprits who will be taken to court. But on this side, it's a whole political affair that has not only the discussion about KEMSA and COVID-19 millions or billions or thereabout, but more so about the 2022 race and the discussion of whether corruption can influence how Kenyans vote. Is it possible to say, this so-and-so is so corrupt, so don't give him the presidency? Or does it matter anyway to ordinary voters when they go to the vote? So these are the issues that are at hand, not necessarily because of matters of accountability, but the political capital out of it.
I think it's interesting how corruption follows political fortunes in this country. Because you look at how, of course, it's now taken the current divide between the president and Raila Odinga on one side, and the deputy president and his supporters on another. And you've seen, you talk about how ODM was talking about and what the Deputy President had said. And we've seen in the past few weeks, the Deputy President has been tweeting a lot, first of all, about the issues to do with KEMSA and accountability and corruption. And also during the interview with you, Joe, he spoke quite a bit about it. But for me, I see he has shifted a bit in terms of speaking against corruption since 2013, since he was elected. I keep remembering the Arora and Kimwarer Dam scandal, when it was said that 21 billion had been lost. He said, no, it's 7 billion. Yeah. He hasn't really come out in the past speaking about corruption and the fight against this. But now, because of how his political fortunes have been, he even spoke about how he's being fought within Jubilee. He talked about how the party has been taken over. He talked about how they don't even want to give him the ticket. So he's literally not in good books, as some would say. But, Joe, as I finish, I think now that he's speaking up about it, it's well and good. But then what next? Gahuri speaks about political 2022 and what it comes out of it. Considering the fact that now, as a country, we are facing issues to do with COVID bringing about 1.7 million unemployed people, and also the same COVID bringing millionaires and billionaires in terms of money being stolen. So now the politics in this is glaring, and it's actually pretty unfortunate. But
it has to be said, I think if you look at ODM as well, I mean, I don't think they have been as forthright as they have been on this issue of corruption. If you think about how, for example, before the handshake, if this thing, the KEMSA scandal, for example, was happening, say, in 2015 or 2016, the voices we would have been hearing from ODM would have been louder, and they probably would have been camping at Afia House on the street or something, carrying placards and asking Mutahi Kagwe and Susan Mutache to step aside.
Yes, that was their big mantra, that step aside until your name is cleared. Now it's that the media is sensationalizing it, and let's wait for an audit. Were this another time, by now, you know, it would be court, you know, baying for Mutahi Kagwe's blood and you know, and all of the others who've been adversely mentioned. And so, I mean, it really
Which is really the tragedy of our politics,
absolutely,
that it gets its nose into just about everything, Linus.
You see, Joe, politics is the personal protective equipment of corruption. It's the PPE. And tribe is the mask. You can wear it to protect yourself. And politicians know it. They know it very well. And Francis, you asked a very important question. Can corruption be an election issue? Not in Kenya. Not in Kenya, because corruption is rewarded. The corrupt person is the one that is able to fund an election.
For me, I think that is how it is an election, on the reverse.
That's how it's an election.
Corrupt,
they call it mwiziwetu.
Yes. Our elections are funded by corruption. And if you have not received it in advance, you will get payback after the victory.
Like a pending deal.
That is how it works. But there's something that must be pointed out, and you started doing that, Joe, about ODM. ODM will shortly realize the cost of doublespeak, especially on an issue as static as corruption. You see, the DP is on his way to realizing that already. Because there was 5 billion which he dismissed when the media, when Business Daily, when NTV went out with the story. The DP spoke in Kitale, in Eldoret, and said, in propaganda ya magazeti, 5 billion shillings that was lost in the Ministry of Health, which is captured very well in the report, in the Auditor General's report, as monies that is lost. And not just that, there was another 6 billion that could not be accounted for. He said propaganda and media. Now, DP is questioning KEMSA. It's very, very interesting to see how he'd handle both, because Yvonne, you spoke of bloodline. I suspect the players in the Ministry of Health and the players in KEMSA are the same. Basically, you spoke of the bloodline. The truth will come out. The problem with the truth is it comes out however long it stays, it's suppressed. So it will come out, and I suspect, I'm not sure, but I suspect the players in Afi House, that was, one allocation, it's a station. It was allocated to that side. The players in Kimarar and Aror, of course, are also one side. That's how corruption works. The people coming in now is ODM. And they're coming in a very blind way, because they have taken a strategy that doesn't question corruption. We saw the leader, Raila Odinga, said, we need an audit. In the previous cases, step aside.
As we do the audit.
Take political responsibility. That is gone. And why is that? Because of politics again. Here is the handshake that is now working, not like a PPE, not like a mask, but like a blindfold for ODM. Because they can't see anything wrong between now and 2022. And the promise that has probably been made by circles that include David Murathe, that Raila Odinga will be the candidate in 2022. So the price for that is see no evil, hear no evil, keep calm, you're the candidate. I don't know whether it will work. Not when people are crying about corruption. I think it can be very, very costly. And last point I want to make about ODM. It'll be very interesting to see, and I'm waiting for the Obado case, because it looks like the party has moved in and now it wants Obado removed.
Yeah, impeached, They had
impeached. I see a repeat script of Ferdinand Waitito.
Absolutely.
Fast track it at the county level, bring it to the Senate, do the plenary. There is a handshake majority, give Obado his kick out.
Because Obado has been seen as an outsider for a very long time within ODM. So he is not really seen as ODM proper.
But if you're accusing Obado of corruption, the MCAs of Kirinyaga County brought a very compelling case against Anne Waiguru.
Yes.
Who was in the forefront of defending Anne Waiguru?
Right.
It was ODM. ODM saved Anne Waiguru. ODM could not listen to the MCS of Kirinyaga. Of course, there's something that I can't wait. If it happens, then that'll be fun, Francis, to see if the Jubilee senators will play the role ODM played in the case of Anne Waiguru and defend Obado. I'm waiting to see the Kirinyaga senator, for example, defending him.
No, it would be quite interesting to see that. I mean, especially because there is Obado has in some respects been associated with the DP. I mean, the DP has gone to see him many times and that sort of thing. And there are people who are saying, well, you know what, Obado might just be what you could call a proxy war, as it were, that might have nothing to do with Obado himself as a person, but he might be a victim of the bigger political
What does that have to do with the loss of 73 billion shillings? Again, this is where the cloud usually comes in this fight against corruption, which is why the best hope for the country is when you have a DPP office that functions independently, when you have a DCI office that works independently, and when you have an effective EACC that is blind to politics. It doesn't matter what party you support, which candidate you are aligned to in 2022. All they have to do is stick with the facts. 73 million shillings from the county government was lost. That is what it should be charged with. It doesn't matter your political affiliation and all that, which is why those three officers that I mentioned are the only hope in fighting corruption.
Shall we move to? We can kind of. I think we need to move to this politics that is in Jubilee, because it's kind of almost tied there. And I would like us to play a soundbite of David Murathe. He spoke the other day, speaking about the deputy president. Or shall we start with the deputy president himself, talking about conmen and brokers in Jubilee?
Unfortunately, and this is tragic, you know, the party has been hijacked by busybodies and conmen, you know, and brokers like Murathe and company. Yeah, people who have no clue where why the philosophy behind Jubilee. They were nowhere. Yeah? We appointed them into those positions as a caretaker, waiting for us to have elections so that we can have elected officials in the party.
Yvonne.
Yeah, that and indeed what you had in your story today, which was Kipchumba Murkomen last night when he was on JKL. So finally, we're addressing the real issue in Jubilee. For years, they have said, you know, since the handshake, that it is Raila who's, you know, come in and he's spoiling the party. And I think we've had these discussions. Maybe we've not quite mentioned it here, but, you know, when you have the husband of the home going out, you know, with having an extramarital affair, and you see them blaming the other one as opposed to dealing with the husband. Because for the longest time, they've made it seem like this was not Uhuru's problem, that Uhuru was somehow blindfolded by Raila coming into the party. But now...
Too many blindfolds.
Too many blindfolds today. Maybe he had a mask on and it was in the wrong place, you know, across his eyes. But now they're beginning to address the real issues in the party, which is that they have problems with each other. The deputy president has a problem with Murathe, who's the vice chair of the party. Kipchumba Murkomen actually taking it right to the heart of the president.
Not Raila.
Actually, the soundbite is there.
Yeah.
If you want that soundbite, it's there.
Yes.
There is that soundbite
we need to get it. We have it. We need to get it.
If we can get it from, particularly from the story that Gashuri had, you know, a little earlier on in this bulletin. So finally, we're addressing the problems that are within Jubilee. And that, remember we said the handshake was two people. It was Uhuru and Raila. And the moment they kept blaming Raila, what was Uhuru's role? And it was interesting to see Kipchumba Murkomen directly address the president and ask him, What is it
I would
that
love
we
for us
did?
to
I'm
so
itching to say something after the sound.
if we see it.
if we can find it. But yeah, I mean, I think for me that has been the interesting thing, and that now Jubilee is beginning to address its issues, lance the boil, and get to the bottom of what's really happening within the party. I think, yes, we have it. Let's listen to Kipchumba Murkomen.
What became of that Uhuru Kenyatta that today he chased William Ruto from a house in Mombasa, that it is the same Uhuru Kenyatta who is arresting everybody who is associated with the Deputy President. It is the same Uhuru Kenyatta who has not given the Deputy President any responsibility, neither does he even invite him for important meetings in the name of using COVID as an excuse. The problems that are bedeviling the Deputy President has nothing to do with Raila Odinga. It has everything to do with Uhuru Kenyatta, planning by himself.
Yeah. Wow.
Well,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
It doesn't get any more, direct than that. I think finally, this, like I think you said in your story, the divorce is now.
We actually
This is where we are.
Yes,
Jamila.
we're actually dealing with the divorce proceedings.
This is it, and
Yeah.
it's messy, and it's out
Yeah.
here, and they're now deciding who will keep what, who will take the house,
So
who
saying
will
that
keep
it is
the
the
kids,
president
who will keep.
who arrested those senators the other day.
Right.
And it is him who kicked the DP out of that house in
Mombasa.
Mombasa.
I think in defense of all good marriages, this was not a marriage. This was an entanglement.
Gosh,
It was an entanglement.
Wow, okay.
We
yeah.
said here, and
we're
I
just
think
out
it
of the
was
month of
you,
August.
Yvonne, that said in this show that betrayal is
The currency of our
is
politics.
the currency of our politics. For William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta to think they were actually entering a marriage in 2012 and 2013 was the biggest lie, because what brought them together?
ICC.
ICC. These guys were running away from ICC by running for office. And it was a very convenient ticket. Now, ICC is no threat anymore. The term is coming to an end. The first 10 years is coming to an end. And I think the brother thing has also been tested over time. And now you have Uhuru Kenyatta questioning, do I trust him to be my successor? And he needs to...
And that's what David Murathe was saying when... Yes, that's... Because
The day before yesterday,
The day before
with
listen to
Wahiga.
it, to just buttress your point, Linus.
People go to church and they swear before man and before God to get married till death do you part. But people still divorce. These arrangements, politics is dynamic. And if you started by behaving well and then you change your character along the way, everybody has a right to change their mind about the position. We are not interested in those seats, but we care who will come after this president. So we have to sit, discuss, and scheme. We don't know who will be president, but we are working very hard to know who will not become president.
Oh.
Yeah, you see,
Jamila.
I think you say this was not a marriage, it was an entanglement.
Yeah.
For me, I look at it as the middle stages of a very messy divorce. Because one, the tone of the conversation, what Murathe was saying now, and what Murkomen said yesterday, I think I'll go back to that. Because, you know, it's for the first time, Ruto's allies have gone straight for the president. Like, yeah. Because tangu mwanzo, the DP's wars have been blamed on everything else and everybody else around it, but never directly the president, one, and you've mentioned it. And two, now Ruto has set to lose his lieutenants. And I think this will become dirty at some point. Because these guys know each other very well. Remember Murkomen was saying, alipanda hata chopa ya president at some point. So unasikiaga mtama umemwagwa, kuku waje wakule. I think I have a feeling we'll start seeing a lot of more revelations coming through in the next few days or so. And number two, remember that for the president, he has lieutenants wake wale wakieleweke na pia kuna wale wa ODM. So we will still hear people wakimtetea, and that will also be dirty. And finally, I think the president's temperament will not allow him not to say anything. In fact, I'm waiting for the next public event where the president will be na atazungumza. And then now we'll see now where this is going. Because sasa imekuwa ni kubaya. Kumeharibika, kila mtu afungue roho.
They talk about the night of long knives, Francis, but we still have 2 years to the election. This is going to be quite an interesting 2 years. I mean, if this is a tone in the middle of 2020, where Kipchumba Murkomen, who until not too long ago was actually saying that I know the president.
Yes.
He is not the problem in this party. It is these people who have come who are kind of telling the president the wrong things and who are messing up Jubilee. Actually, there was a long conversation going back and forth about the handshake having come to mess up Jubilee and shunt the deputy president. But right now, we're actually seeing this fratricide that is actually going on in Jubilee.
Absolutely. You see, initially, when we began talking about this whole fallout in Jubilee, we're told, no, the media is reading too much into it. No, the media is inciting a division in Jubilee. No, you people don't know how the president and his deputy relate. All manner of things we were told. Now, you also remember that discussion around the president is not bad, but the people around him are the bad ones. We were told about Office of the President. We were told about the CS and the PS Interior. We were told about all manner of people who were not doing a good job or who are not very friendly to the deputy president. But now, finally, the targets are clear. You know, it's no longer a secret where the targets, who the target is. Because look at it this way. If initially the blame was on the handshake is between the president and the deputy. That's what, at least that's what we saw on the steps of Harambee House. So if you say the handshake is bad, so you're basically saying one half of that handshake
didn't happen
is the president's arm. So you're saying he was wrong if the Jubilee quarrels have everything to do with the handshake. And then if the problem was not the president, it was the president's men. Who appoints these president's men? It is the president. So how is it that the president's men can undermine the second in command in a government that he helped craft? So those are some of the fundamental questions that we needed to ask that time. We asked, but we were told, you guys don't know what's happening. Now, it's all clear. What is interesting is that the deputy president has not in any way attempted to take on his boss directly, but his lieutenants have. I don't know whether he will get to that point where he'll also deal with the president directly and, you know, tell him a few things. But as Jamila says, I will not be very surprised if the president in the next function, he says something, either directly or in a subtle manner. When he was handing over title deeds to Embakasi residents, he was saying, mimi sitakuwa nikiongea, mtakuwa tu mnaona kazi. In a subtle way, saying a few things. And this is the point where we say, sometimes don't listen to too much of what the politicians are saying. Listen to so much of what they are not saying. Because that speaks louder than what they are saying.
Yvonne? Oh, sorry. Sorry.
No,
Yvonne, do you want to go first?
No, I cede my time to okay.
To the distinguished gentleman from Transmara.
From Transmara. Thank you, Yvonne. I just wanted to speak about two things. First, the institution of the Office of Deputy President and what William Ruto is going through right now. It's not strange at all. It has happened elsewhere. Even in tickets that are shared like this one is. In 1992, Ghana went into elections, and President Jerry Rawlings had Nkansen Aka as his first vice president. And they had a very, very poor relationship. The vice president, actually, the issues that separated them was his claims that there was a lot of corruption and it was being transacted in cabinet. And one day, when he was chairing a cabinet meeting, because the vice president was the one to chair cabinet meetings, Jerry Rawlings walked in, picked this old man because he was way older than Rawlings, and you know Rawlings was an energetic Air Force pilot, picked him up and beat him up.
Huh?
Yes. Arca was actually beaten by Jerry Rawlings. His jacket was torn. He reported to the police and he got a P3. Let's hope there'll be no P3s in this country or such an incident. When you go to Nigeria again, we had Atiku Abubakar, who couldn't work with President Obasanjo. So that is how it's been. It's nothing new. But something else that the President Uhuru Kenyatta and his team may need to know about the history of this country. Out of the three presidents that preceded him, none of them ever succeeded with their succession plan. Jomo Kenyatta was quiet about his. We do not have it on record that he actually wanted Daniel Arap Moi to become his successor. First of all, his death was not to be discussed as decreed by Charles Njonjo. You move to Daniel Arap Moi himself. He tried to make Uhuru Kenyatta the successor.
And that didn't go well.
And what happened? The party exploded. KANU split, and NAK was born, and NAK defeated KANU in the elections in 2002. So failure number 2. Failure number 3, Mwai Kibaki, although we have nothing on record of him saying who he prefers, we had his team that somehow thought Musalia Mudavadi, they toyed with the idea of Musalia Mudavadi becoming the next president. They toyed with other
and some
names.
Some demons.
Uhuru
Kenyatta.
Yes, so demons are real. The president is too aware that demons he more than anybody else should be aware that demons are real. So when you see the Murathes being so confident about their plan, I don't know. I would be less confident because there's something else that happens. The preferred successor becomes the bearer of the burdens of that administration. And look, I printed out the corruption list today. This is heavy for whoever succeeds Jubilee. Whether from Jubilee itself or an outside person, the next president of this country will have a nightmare to inherit.
Yeah, and talking about a nightmare to inherit, somebody is asking me here to ask Joe how it felt to interview the Deputy President the other day, and what they talk about body language, demeanor, and everything else.
Joe.
And you only called my friend
once.
Yeah. Of course, what it felt, I mean, it's an interview like all the ones that we do. I think there was something there, yes, to be said about body language. It looked like he had a lot of things to say. Some he said by not saying. It was very clear. And he was more candid, I think, about many different things, including the state of affairs within Jubilee. He came out a lot more candidly than he has in the past, and saying, yes, this is not functioning like a party. There's a problem, actually, in this party, and he tried to define what that was. He was, I think, more forthcoming in terms of trying to articulate his position and probably not, like having a big argument all night long. I think that was quite different and very interesting. And I think
maybe another observation that I could make, Joe, and I completely agree with you. The only thing you didn't tell Francis is you didn't tell him that tonight you are the one asking questions.
Yeah.
But additionally, I think this is the old Ruto, William Ruto, that the media used to know, who would take time to answer questions, who would treat the interviewer with respect. Yeah. Because if we were to play those clips of your interview with that of Hussein Mohammed, you would see during Hussein Mohammed's interview, he was at the height of political power. Yeah. He was the decider. He was reigning. In your interview, he is disadvantaged. He has been taking a lot of punches lately. And there's something that does to a politician. Suddenly it brings clarity. Look at the new Murkomen. Isn't he the 2010 Murkomen now, with a lot of clarity, with a lot
quite eloquent, I must say.
Very eloquent.
And for me, that is one reason why I think what you were saying is so important, that all these
not just eloquent, but closer to the national conscience. Exactly. Because when they are in the depth of political power, they move very far from their national conscience. Now you see Murkomen that is more aware of what the ordinary folk think, of what the ordinary life in Kenya looks like. And I sensed the same with the interview with the Deputy President. He was more down to earth. He leaned forward to listen to your questions. In Hussein Mohammed's case, he sat back and actually almost airplane mode in terms of the sitting posture. The posture was really good, like respectful. And he listened to your questions and answered, I thought, all the questions that you asked that night.
And I think also, Joe, I'm sorry, before you continue, is that it's been interesting to see the delegation of people going to Karen these days. You talk about mtu wa kawaida, mwananchi. Those are the people who have been visiting the Deputy President at Karen, people from the church, local leaders. I think today there were leaders from Kajiado who were there.
In fact, Jamila, just to add on to that, you know, he leads prayers, huh?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the saying in the Bible where the man is the priest of his home. I mean, you've seen, you know, some of those tweets where he says, today I led prayers in my household. Obviously, it's COVID restrictions, but, you know, I just thought I would add on to that. I found that, you know, very interesting that he would lead his own family and maybe a few people that come to visit in press, but carry on, Jam.
Which is something I think that all put together, I mean, all the delegations, the demeanor that, as Lina says, is quite different from how it used to be. And all of those things put together, I think the people who are talking on the other side about having a real plan about 2022 ought to watch that carefully, in my view. I mean, I'm just looking at, and he's also very good at playing victim, like, you know what, you saw what they did to me and all of that. So this is going to be quite interesting watching how this unfolds. I do not think that anybody has a plan that you could say is foolproof at this point.
Yeah, and you see the word there, spectator. The origin is Standard newspapers. There was a headline that reduced the DP to a spectator. He immediately jumped into it and said he's very happy to be a spectator right now. Who wouldn't be in the face of KEMSA and new corruption?
And yes, he said actually that at least nobody can now say it was Ruto ally this, Washamini and Dele took was spectator. That is the tweet. That
yes. See what tomorrow's Nation has as the headline, Ruto, from power to opposition. Yeah, and he even alluded to that in your interview, that there are people who say he occupies a big office with no power. You know, so the whole question of being sidelined is clear. I mean, Murkomen is hinting to it. And this is what has been said over and over again, that in the second term, there's a huge difference in terms of operations and the relationship between the president and the deputy as compared to the first term. The executive order number 1 of 2019, I think, was the clearest indicator of where the axis in terms of power was shifting to. And you saw today in Kajiado, where CS Matiang'i, CS Kagwe and CS Keriako were clearly telling you where they think power lies. And certainly not with the DP, and according to their interpretation of it.
In fact, Mutahi Kagwe said, huyu bwana Matiang'i ametuongoza vizuri sana, and Keriako Tobiko actually warning people against spending time going for some delegations in Karen.
I think on that note,
there's something that comes off. There's something that comes off very close to the election, and that is the jacket of administrative advantage. It's totally lost. It can come either more as a liability.
Yes, a baggage, yeah.
It's baggage. So they should be careful. If they have a candidate in Kajiado today, then that candidate needs to be a politician, because William Ruto is a politician. And he is doing that outside. You see, politics has to stand in the absence of administrative support. You know, you can't walk with a ministerial flag to some of those campaigns. You have to be, this is me. The way William Ruto presents himself as himself, even though now his office has been sidelined or diluted, is still a very, very formidable political force.
And remember, he was elected as a pair with the president because of the change of the constitution. So atakuwa hapo mwezi mtoa mpaka mwenyewe pengine aseme ametosheka. On that note, we take this home. But Mohammed says the fall of the DP was meticulously planned. It has been flawlessly executed. The DP is not the kind to shy away from fighting back. The days ahead will be very interesting. William Ruto is the man to watch. We are ending the show, and we're going to start with Yvonne's take.